Shooters Connection offers products for competition shooters by competition shooters. With over 80 years of combined competition shooting experience, Shooters Connection is staffed by master and grandmaster shooters who live the shooting sports every day. We offer same-day shipping. Shooters Connection also sponsors over 100 of your matches every single year. So when it comes to finding everything you need to compete as a beginner or a seasoned grandmaster, Shooters Connection is the only name you need to know. Online at shootersconnectionstore.com.
Welcome back. This is the Hip Factor Podcast with my good friend, Mr. Jeffrey Cawthon. Cawthon? It's not Cawthorn, it's Cawthon.
I get to be the good friend this time?
Good buddy. Good buddy. After Kentucky, after that drive, all the time in the car, time spent at distilleries. Oh, man. Almost best buddy ever.
I know I say this every time, but damn, that was such a good trip. Such a good trip with good people, dude.
Dude, okay, it really, honestly, it really was. Other than 16-hour drive for me. Other than which was really just got rough on the way back, because on the way there we did it in 2 days, so no big deal. The way back, 16 hours one day. We left Texas time. We left at 3 a.m. to get Bob to the airport. So that was rough. But other than that, holy cow! The Airbnb that somebody got was. It was incredible, dude. This was his cabin, back in the woods, and we first pull into it, and we're like, this does not look right. Well, you end up driving. Well, I know what it was. It's 0.68 miles because I ran it down this road. And you end up this cabin with this wraparound porch, fully secluded, private. It was just really, really nice. Very romantic, very romantic too.
It was like a massive, really nice. Hilly pasture.
Yeah.
Or it was actually just a lawn, because it was just grass. It was mowed really nice.
It's bluegrass.
Yeah, we did some sprints out there. It was fun.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of lawns, I don't know what's going on in Kentucky, but it was almost unnerving to see every lawn everywhere was mowed very nicely. I mean,
striped, perfect, striped really nicely. Yeah.
Yes, and it wasn't you saw, that house was really nice and that house was really nice. It was we were looking, and I don't remember finding hardly a property where it's this isn't mowed and looking really nice. Mm-hmm. So kudos to Lexington area, Kentucky, and y'all's ability to look after y'all's places and make things look nice. Because it was, I was impressed.
It was gorgeous, dude.
Yeah. Great trip. Now, I will say there was one thing, and I meant to lead the podcast with this. So we're driving back, and actually, Jeff was driving, which, look, I was just as shocked. I was just as shocked as everybody else. But I'm in the back seat, kind of dozing off, and I look back. And Jeff is right behind this semi. I mean, he's right up on it. And I look up, and what is on this semi? It's just full of PVC pipe. And I'm sorry, but I was like, Jeff, I'm going to need you to pass this guy. We need to get around him, because I've seen Final Destination. And I'm pretty sure any other millennial alive has seen Final Destination. And I don't want to get speared by a piece of PVC. So I made him pass him. He's like, oh, it's just plastic. It won't hurt you. Bull crap, it won't. I've seen that. That'll go straight through you, right through your forehead.
Yeah. I actually haven't seen that movie, but I've seen another movie where that happens. It was The Descent. It's a horror movie.
Oh.
Yeah, and it starts out that way. They're going, and these metal pipes just freaking go straight through the driver. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys must remember 25 years ago, the two guys on the motorcycle in Thailand, pipe went through two of them.
Yes.
And they lived.
That.
They was surgically removed, and they lived. Both of the guys lived, hell, through the rib cage.
Oh my God.
Two of them, a kebab. Yeah,
I do remember that.
Skewered him.
Yeah. So, you guys should comment if if I was wrong for making Jeff like just chill out, if I was wrong for making Jeff go around and pass that semi, because I felt fully justified in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it was PVC.
Dude, have you seen PVC shatter on the end? It just turns into a spear. This is what happens.
Yeah.
It turns into a spear. Becomes sharp. Sharp as all get out. Go right through that windshield. So
Right through it.
this was the Hit Factor single stack raid. And while we didn't get a huge number of entries, I think we ended up, there were more that were signed up for the match, and I think we had like 4 that didn't end up making it. I think we ended up having 9 at the match. But other than Hannah, Discord member, shout out to Mundane Sally, who was, I think, unclassified in single stack. I think they were all A class and above. We had 3 GMs. Paul Clark Jr. is a GM in limited. He's a master in single stack, but he's a GM otherwise.
Yeah.
Mike Dixon, master, Hit Factor member. Brady Harden is a master class shooter. I don't know if there was another master class. There was like a couple more A class shooters. So, I mean, the field was solid. Like it was a really, really solid field for single stack division.
Yep.
It made it a lot of fun. It made it a ton of fun. We had a little bit of an incident with an RO that we'll discuss as well, which is quite interesting. And so the winner of the Hit Factor single stack raid was none other than Bob Crow.
The people's champ strikes again.
The working man's champ.
Working man's champ.
The working man's champ.
He called me today, and he's pretty sure he broke his ring finger on his right hand, on the last, like just below the nail bed. So it's literally right where you crush when you grip a gun. It's right where your left hand crushes it against the grip panel, right?
Oh.
So we'll see how that heals up. So.
Did he break it at work?
Yeah, at work. He got it pinched. He got it pinched in something. Hasn't been X-rayed yet. He's like, I'll get it X-rayed in a couple of days, but it's all purple, and it's the last. It's below. It's or above. However you're looking at it, the last joint. So there's nothing they can do about it. They could put it in a splint, but there's nothing that they can do.
Dude, that's what. My dad had a story like that because he worked in the oil field when he was a younger man.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a story about smashing like the tip of his finger.
Yeah.
And he was like wanting to go to the doctor, and the foreman or whatever was like, if you go to the doctor, they're not going to do anything. So I don't know why he did this, but he said he took a leather glove and he dipped it in diesel and he put it on his hand and was like, get back to work.
I've not heard of a diesel trick healing broken
bones,
but
he does have one finger that the tip of it is quite a bit flatter than the other one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So also have to give a big shout out to Leif Kunkel, of GX Products, who was match director for it, and not only was match director, he was title sponsor of the match. And look, it's a small match. It was a level 1 because of all of the draw. It normally would have been a level 2, but it was dropped down to a level 1 kind of because of all the drama with the board, and in an effort to still put on a really solid USPSA match, which the shooters appreciate, and yet tell the board like, hey, there's we take issue with how you've been handling things lately. It was just a level 1, but it was 10 stops. I think did we shoot a 10 or 11 stages? I think it was 10 stages. We shot 10 stages all in one day. The weather started out absolutely beautiful for the first 2 stages, and then it got hot, and then it just kept getting hot, and it was very hot. But man, I just speaking about stages, we can talk about those now. I thought Leif did a great job putting together stages. I've always heard that about his matches, that his stages are well thought out, they run efficiently, and it was true to form. I looked at the match book a couple days before the match, just, hey, do we have any like strong hand weak hand? Maybe I need to make sure that I brush up more on weak hand or something if that's in there. But I looked at the match book. I just glanced through it and it's like, oh, okay, so this is going to be a lot of open targets and just pretty open, and that's cool. He'll use distance to kind of, make that happen, and it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like we were shooting Area 3 where it was nothing but open targets. He did a really good job of strategically placing hardcover or no-shoot targets. Not a ton, but it was just enough that you had. There were places where you had to really be accurate, and you would struggle if you didn't. I think I would guess that some people will complain that there was too much movement in the match, but I loved it. I thought it was great. We finally, this is the first time I've seen a match director do this. They used a really big bay. I think it's about 50 yards deep and close to 50 yards wide, and he literally used the whole thing. We had a huge movement in it, and we shot 2 targets that were 50-ish. I think somebody said 45. An RO was pasting the far target, so I never had to walk down there. But huge amounts of movement, accuracy required, but it wasn't like a 2-hit factor stage. So that was great. Lots of other movement in it that I thought was really good.
And you won that stage, Jeremy.
That was our second stage of the match, and I shot that stage.
I mean, you won it by a lot.
I didn't realize when I was shooting it, I didn't realize that I was shooting it that well because Bob had shot it, and I can't remember who I was talking to. I was like, man, I wish I could shoot just like technically perfect, because that's what Bob does. Like, he just shoots technically perfect most of the time. And
so he dropped 2 Charlies and you dropped 5, but you did it 3 and then changed seconds faster, which is a lot.
Yeah, I was honestly when I got the scores, I was a little bit surprised. That it was.
You were like 92% in the overall for your run on that stage.
Yeah, that was.
I think you were 7th or 8th in the overall.
Yeah, I was happy with that. So I want more stages like that. Let's get more 50-yard stages where we have to have 60 yards of running in it.
Well, in the shooting, clearly, because Jeff shot a clean match. When was the last time you did that, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't know.
Have you ever done a clean major?
I think so. It's been
Really?
a while, though. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't follow your scores that closely, but I don't recall seeing a clean match for you. So, kudos on that.
Maybe not.
Yeah, it was definitely a match that you really felt like you should have shot it clean. The penalties that I had were not penalties that I should have. Oh, dude.
On that stage you're talking about, that big long one, like, I had accepted a miss on that one, right? Yeah. Because shooting those long targets, and Leif had steel behind him, so you kind of knew when you hit them. So if you didn't hear the steel ring, you would assume that you missed the target. Mm-hmm. So I sent, I forget, like 4 or 5 at this one, and I heard 1 ring, and I was like, I'm gonna take the miss, or I clipped the edge of that target and it missed the steel. That's what I thought. Yep. And that is actually what happened, because I had like a perf hit and a delta, and it had missed the steel. So I didn't have a mic, but I had accepted that I was going to have a mic. Yeah. It was interesting to have that steel, because it really did kind of fuck with you. Like, you're shooting, and you're like, I have not heard a ding.
Bonk.
Yeah. Well, I had a similar experience. It was the first one, because you had to make like a 20-yard run before you started engaging this target at 45 yards. So you're huffing and puffing, and I get over there, and first shot I shoot, I don't hear anything, and it was the sight picture wasn't great when it went off. It's like, okay, second had a good sight picture on the second one and heard the ding, and the third one I had a great sight picture. I mean, everything was centered up. It was good. And so I shot it and I just left. without even waiting for a ding, because it's a wait to hear that ding,
Yeah.
and never heard the ding. And I was like, well, after I'm running, it's like, well, I guess that's not going to be, whatever I saw wasn't good. Well,
Yeah.
what I saw was perfectly centered up. It was high, so I had a shot in the head. So you call me lucky, call me like whatever, I'll take it. It was a
lucky.
Side picture was really good. Trigger press was good, and apparently it was just high in the notch. But
yeah.
So you're shooting, what your ammo is? What you're shooting 4,900 feet per second?
That was nine. Well, I averaged like 980 at that match.
Right, and speed of sound's about 1,100 feet per second.
Right.
At sea level. So if it's a 50-yard target, then it's going to take you, right, 150 feet. It's going to take you 1,500s to get there, and then the sound's going to take 1,500s to get back. You press the trigger. If you're waiting to hear a thunk, that's a third of a second.
Right. Yep. Yeah, so you can do it after your
and that's a long time to wait for, because then once you hear it, you figure even if you've got great auditory responses, that's about 1,500s. It's half a second to fire a makeup based on not hearing a thunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you liked your sights, you're shooting and leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I did. And got a little fortunate on that. But big kudos to Leif. I thought the stages were good. It was a really fun match. You didn't ever feel like you were getting punished as a shooter on anything, but you were being challenged. There was enough distance that you're, if you shot points down, you were going to get hurt.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, a big nod to Leif on that one, because generally I'll go to a match and there will be some good stages, and then there will be some where it's like, this stage is obviously just here because they needed another stage. Like it's a perfect mirror stage, or it's a stage that just like you don't even think to shoot it. Like you just pull the gun out and shoot it, and there's nothing that can be done. There's zero interesting things in the stage.
Yep.
Or afterwards, you're like, is that stage 6 or stage 9? And then you realize stage 6 and stage 9 were like the same filler stage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there was some short stages, but I still thought they were all pretty interesting. So yeah, it was a really good mix.
Yeah, it was a low round count. It was 10 stages, and round count was 214. So we're averaging 21.4 rounds per stage. There was not a single 32 round stage in it, and in no way did I think there were only 3 long field courses. In no way did I feel like I was gypped or that the experience was lessened because it wasn't 300 plus rounds for the match. Yeah. So I thought that was really, really good.
Probably like my only thing that I would have liked is if one of those longer stages had been towards the end to break up all the short stuff that was shot at the end.
Right.
But that's getting pretty nitpicky. Like that's me trying to find something to say.
Well, and that was your guys' schedule, right? Is you started on 8, so you shot the 4 longest stages in a row, and then you finished on 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you shot the 4 shortest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
somebody's going to have that schedule, and somebody else is going to start on 1 and finish on the 4 long ones, right?
Yeah. And it's their bay layout too, right? Like they're constricted. The bays down low are smaller. They really like to stuff. If you stuff 32 rounds in some of those lower bays, you're literally just stuffing rounds. Like you're doing stack targets. You're just stuffing rounds in there just to stuff rounds in there. So it's somewhat just a range constraint and not being able to do it. My only nitpicky thing is there were a ton of starts where you had to start in the middle of the shooting area, and then you had to make a long run to start shooting. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, but there could have been a little bit more of, hey, start anywhere, or hey, start a place where you're gonna draw and start shooting immediately. So that's the only, that would be one nitpicky thing. But I will say the stages were good and they were interesting, but we didn't walk it the day before. We went to Wild Turkey Distillery the day before rather than going to the range, and there was really no, other than I would say our third stage, there was really no issue like trying to figure out a stage plan. Even single stack, like the stages were interesting, but it wasn't any sort of gotcha. Hey, you're just trying to figure out what is a stage plan. That really wasn't an issue. So I think that's good. I think that's a positive thing where you don't have to spend 3 hours the day before just figuring stages out.
Yeah, I agree. It was
your guys' third stage was the stage Jeff won by not shooting mics, unlike everybody else.
By not shooting, by just not shooting a mic.
Yeah. Yep, that was.
You guys all shot it like within a second, at the same time, but Jeff didn't shoot any mics. Everybody else shot 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. I think I had the slower time on that one.
So we had the top 4 single stack shooters on our squad, so Bob Crow, Jeff, Paul Clark Jr., and myself, all in the same squad, and that was a blast having all 4 of us shoot together. Somewhat of a super squad type scenario. A shout out to Leif. He kind of helped us. He had kind of a squad that he was able to make that happen for us once we knew that Junior was coming and Bob was coming and stuff. So it would have been a totally different experience had they been on all different squads. But having everybody all in the same squad. This is a not shout out to Paul Kerr, who showed up and did not shoot his single stack gun. He shot a Sissy limited optics gun. So not shout out to Paul Kerr.
And not shout out to Max White, who was a junior shooter who was registered in single stack and looked like he destroyed the match on day 1 until they fixed his registration and back to shooting open. But if you put him back into single stack, he only beats Bob by like 3-4%. So actually,
seeing those results. Yeah, seeing those results, I got real worried. It's like, well, we're about to get beat by a junior shooter because he put the smackdown on mid-pack Mike at that point. And it's like, well, we're screwed. So glad they changed that scores. I mean, everybody ended up super close. Overall times were quite close. Bob won. Jeff, you were 97.5%. Am I
6.5?
6.3. Junior was right there. You and him were really, really close. And then I was 20-ish points, I think, behind Junior. Once it was all done.
And that spread between me and Junior happened on the last stage. I think we were 1 point. We were 1 point apart going in the last stage. Oh
wow, it was that close. Wow, and he had a rough Junior had a tough last stage.
He did. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't know it was 1 point going into the last stage.
If I had known, I would have told you.
Yeah. So Jeremy and I did something a little different that we talked about doing going up to this match. We're like, okay, we're gonna like regroup at 2 different points during the match and kind of discuss strategy, like where we're at in the match, what we want to do for the next few stages, and just kind of see how it goes. Like, we've never done that before, so we did. Like, after the first 3 stages.
Well, and the reason for doing that is because it was an all day match, and a lot of times you shoot an all day match and you're in it for like the first 3/4 of the stages, and you get kind of like to the last 2 or 3, especially as hot as it was out there, and you end up just phoning those in, right? It's just like you're more just looking forward to being done rather than you're trying to compete really hard. So that was our motivation for doing it. So sorry to cut you off, Jeff.
No, you're good. So yeah, after the first 3 stages, we had a powwow, me, Jeremy, and Brett, and we sat down. Okay, how have you done? What kind of scores do we have up? How are we feeling about this next leg? What's your strategy going forward? Are you going to be shooting aggressive? Or are you going to be just trying to get some more base hits? What are we going to do going forward? And then after the next 4 stages, we did the same thing. We kind of sat down. Okay, we got 3 left. They're lower point stages. Where are we at? How are we feeling? What's the plan going forward? And I don't know. I liked that.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought it was a good way to regroup. You know, I don't.
Did you guys change your strategy?
I mean, there was definitely. So I would say, just as how the match went, it was definitely kind of, you know, the first 3-4 stages. Everybody's just feeling like, where is everybody going to kind of end up at, right? Bob came out. Bob and Junior both shot a really good first stage. Jeff and I were pretty conservative. And then stage 2, I ended up throwing a really, really good stage. And, you know, and then stage 3 was my well, actually 3 and 4 were kind of train wreck stages for me. So it's just, like, you're kind of just feeling out, like, who's going to end up with a lead where. And we get to where we've got 3 or 4 stages left. And that's where it's kind of like, I think it was really the swinger stage where you started and you had the swinger in the middle as a long, like, lateral move, Jeff. And Bob finished shooting that. And Bob, at that point, he kind of knows he has a lead. I don't think he had looked at a score, but he kind of knows, okay, I'm probably in like a 20-point lead at this point. And he finished shooting it. He turned to Jeff. He's like, ain't much meat on that chicken wing, buddy, or something like that. I don't know exactly what he says. It was something like that. And that was true. Bob was at a point that, hey, this match is shorter. We don't have a reset for tomorrow. And so if he doesn't start making mistakes, because he does shoot technically very proficient, if he doesn't start making some mistakes, it's going to be very, very hard for anybody to catch him. Yep. And so then we get – so go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, and that's how Bob put distance between me and him. It's like, I didn't shoot any penalties, right? But he would put a stage down like that, and I shot a really clean stage right there too. However, I was not confident in one shot on my swinger, so I let it swing one more time and sent one more, and that was the second and a half added to that run that should have been right there with Bob's. But that's how he got me. He's just extremely technically efficient, you know?
That extra pass on the swinger is like such a great example, because it's just a little bit of confidence, and like it was actually there and you had it, but you just didn't quite have that confidence. So you add 0.9 to your stage time, and you know, you look at his scores for the run in, it's like he won all but one, like the last 6 stages you guys shot, right? So if he's winning stages, how do you, you know, where do you cover ground?
Dude, So after our first 3, we sat down, we talked, and I was like, I've got 3, like, I don't have any penalties. I've got 3 good stages, decent anyway. You know, my stage 2 was not great. Stage 1 was slow, but they're good stages. I got points. I didn't shoot any penalties. I was like, I'm going to try to turn it up from here. So that was the plan after the first 3, was like, try to push a little harder after the first 3. And that was my plan for the next 4.
And you've talked about that before, right? Like, if you can sort of put 3 good stages, then it's sort of your internal permission to open up the throttle. Now, what happened on your 4th stage, though, and this is not to undercut you, is you did, so you won it, right? But
which
you made 1.5 match points on Bob.
Stage 4 was when Bob got into it with the RO.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
But I just want to so do tell that story. But I just want to say that, so you opened up your throttle and you netted 1.5 match points, which is hard. That's disheartening.
Yeah. Oh, there was way more disheartening things than that stage.
Good. It's gonna
at this match, dude. Because that was when I was starting to throttle up, right? And you can't tell from the scores how hard I was pushing, but dude, let me tell you, on like probably it was stages, the 2 before the fixed time, the 10-second and the 15-second stage.
Yep.
So I I was full bore, dude. Like, I was risking the biscuit, right? On those 2 stages. And you can't tell. Like, it did not matter. And that's kind of how competitive the group was, is everybody was shooting incredibly well and incredibly fast and hard. Whereas, like, I was going up there, not seeing much sight pictures, running as hard as I could, and it did not matter. On that 10-second stage, they got time on me, and lots of points. I dropped a lot of points, and they didn't. And then on that second to last stage, the 15-second one, dude, I did the riskiest stuff that I have done in shooting on that stage. I shot a
Hold on. Before we get to that, because I want to lead up to that a little bit more, because like with the 3 stages left, yeah, we look at the points and it's like, okay, he's still sitting on 20 to 25 point lead, right? We've just shot the double activator stage and he crushed that one. I shot it really well, but I was like second up, and I shot a fairly conservative plan. Because it was like the weird time on the swinger, they ended up with shooting a better plan that was much more efficient. But
and I went to war. I went to war on a mini popper on that one, which was all the extra time. I took like 3 or 4 shots at a mini popper on that one.
Yeah. Couldn't have been more than 3, but because you'd run dry. But anyway, like it's kind of, you're kind of thinking Bob's from his perspective as winning, because I talked about him with this after the match. It's like, hey, he has a 25 point lead. Short stages, just go cruise control. Like he kind of like, it's kind of like you kind of think he's gonna just cruise in and just shoot clean and not make mistakes. Look, he couldn't. Like if he had done that, I think he would have lost, because everybody was throwing haymakers. Like everybody was going all out. And these weren't the 15-second stage that Jeff's about to talk about. That was not an easy stage, and the hit factor was low. Points very much mattered. It was not an easy stage, and yet everybody's throwing haymakers. And freaking, to Bob's credit, he shot an incredible match, and people are throwing haymakers, and he just goes up there and wins them. Like he doesn't win the 15-second one, but he shoots lights out.
But you all shot it within the top 5 people on that stage shot it within 0.7 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna.
So like, there's no time there, right? Like you're all going just as hard. Well, like if that's going all out, everybody's doing it.
There should have been time there. Like I would have expected to see some probably like easily some 2-second swings, or even 3-second swings.
Yeah. Oh, easy, dude.
Yeah, we're coming off the stage before it, which was probably the hosiest, maybe besides our first stage of the match, was probably the hosiest stage of the match. Targets were close in, and it was kind of a grip it and rip it type deal. And look, I will say this: we were shooting with Paul Kerr, and I was really trying to like my plan after my stages 3 and 4. My plan was. And it was supposed to be my plan going into the match. It was supposed to be, and I kind of forgot about it. My plan was, how fast can I be shooting as slow a splits as possible? That was my plan going into the match. And we're shooting with Paul Kerr, and we're shooting with Brady Harden, like these guys that just absolutely rip. And Junior, I mean, he absolutely rips too. And dude, it freaking messes with you. Like even they're in a different division, like with Paul Kerr.
Did you start shooting with your ears again, Jeremy? Did you start looking at targets and thinking about how cool it would sound to go, Mama?
You almost can't help it. Like you're trying not to, but you almost can't help it, especially when you're in this, hey, we're going full send here at the end of the match. Like we're
right, but that's not where, but on some deep level, you have to know, like, that's not where the time is.
Yes, but getting yourself to not do that after a decade of doing that, it's easier said than done. So anyway, I've given the lead up now to the 15-second stage. Jeff is like, what are you, like second shooter on third shooter or something? You're pretty early on. None of the single stack guys had shot it.
Yeah, I was the first single stack shooter. And dude, like at this point I know I'm not gonna win because I'm back, I think, like 30 points at this point or something.
Okay.
or close to it, maybe 20 something. But I was like, I looked at Bob and I was like, I need 30 points on you on this stage, I think is what I told him. And so I was planning on shooting an aggressive stage, and then Jeremy said something about I forget exactly what you said, but you said you were going to shoot that open while you were running into that position.
Yeah.
And that's how you were going to work that position. And I was like, yeah, okay, I like that. I'm going to do that. So I actually listened to Jeremy without yelling at him.
Wow.
And
dude, we're getting so close, bro. Like, it's like buddies time.
Yeah. So I work up this plan where I'm basically shooting the whole stage, like, moving. Like, I didn't really stop. Maybe, like, the very first position for a second. But the center position is a bunch of partials. And one of them is, like, I think it was, like, 15 to 18-yard zebra, something like that.
It felt like a 20-yard zebra, I'll say.
Yeah. And I shot that sucker backing out. I was walking backwards and shot that thing.
Yeah.
And, dude, I mean, it was the most full send I've ever sent on a stage. I shot so risky. Like, there was so much opportunity for me to fail that stage and have, like, 3 mics. And I finished shooting it, and I was like, that was a fucking home run. I was like, no one is going to touch that shit. Like, that was so good.
He thought he had 2 seconds on the field.
Oh, yeah. I was
Easy.
like, easy. I just put seconds on my competitors. Nobody can touch that. And they all stepped to the plate and shot it at the exact same level, dude. It was like the most demoralizing run that I've probably ever had in shooting. To walk up and feel like you sent it all and you hooked up and it didn't matter.
Because I shot the center position completely static. I did not move on it at all.
Yeah. I mean, there was lessons to be learned there about trying to hit hard targets while you're moving and whatnot, but it still felt like a home run. Yeah, because everybody else ran to that center position, shot everything static, and took off.
Yeah.
And I did not. And it was wild, the feelings that, like, after I finished it, I was like, yeah! And then everyone else did the exact same thing. It was nuts.
Yeah. That stage was crazy. Like how Brady Harden won it. He truly went full send. I mean, he truly went absolute full send, and he hooked up on it and hit everything. So he won. I crushed Jeff on it. I mean, it was crazy how bad I beat him on. But it was nuts. Like, Jeff, 15 seconds, and then Junior goes 15 seconds. Bob goes 15 seconds. I was the last shooter on that stage, and I honestly, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, you know what, like, I don't know if I'm going to keep up with time, but I am not moving on that zebra target. Like, that's just not. Like, I will have 3 mics. I will hit the hard cover 3 times. So I was like, I'm not going to shoot that. And I knew it was a lot of movement with there was lots of space without moving. I was like, man, the hit factor is going to be low. Points are going to matter. And so I couldn't go, like, just crazy. So it was really try to be visually aggressive, but really try to still get really solid points. And I was kind of I was a little bit surprised when my time was still in the same 15-second range.
Yeah, it was nuts.
There might be something there, Jeremy. You might want to.
Oh, there's a lot
thinking
there.
about that.
No,
that maybe your time is still there, even when you're not trying to go fast.
Yeah. No, the time's there. There's, I mean, at kind of wrap up, there's some good stuff from that for this match.
Yeah.
And then we get to what ended up fixed time stage was our last stage of the match. And fixed time stages, I've shot a lot of really bad ones. I've shot a lot of really bad ones. Man, this one was great. The par time ended up being pretty much perfect, but it was a 1 shot per rather than having 2 pers. So it was really all just transitions, and there were no shoots. There was no sort of penalty that, okay, we're just going to just avoid this target, or we really have to slow down. And so it really just kind of mattered. Could you transition and pay attention to your sights? And then could you, for single stack, could you make the load? Because you had a load on a move. And if you missed the load, there was no chance of finishing it. And
Yeah.
man, we watched again. I was second to last then on that stage, and watched lots of shooters shoot it, and lots of shooters like go crazy, go wild, and they're shooting misses and they're shooting deltas. Like, well, this is not doing any good. And Bob goes up there in typical Bob fashion. He's very visually patient, and he shot alphas and charlies, and didn't shoot. He didn't shoot all the shots, but he shot alphas and charlies, and he won the single stack by what, 8 points? Did he?
Yeah, I think it was 8 points.
Yeah, he
Dude,
beat Jeff by 8 points there.
Bob was
Brett
freaking
Thomas.
dialed in.
Brett Thomas basically got them all right. He just had one overtime shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by .01.
By .01, so he would have been the third. I think there's two other people, Travis Tomasi and Garen Singleton, who got scoring hits. I know other people got the shots off, but they had mics. But he got scoring hits in the time, and he would have been the third. And he was whatever .01 over. Heartbreak.
Yeah.
I actually ended up. I engaged the target twice. It was a 15 round stage. I actually, because I mean, it was a target that presents twice in the same spot, so you're transitioning past it and you end up slinging it at it. And I still got all the shots off with one no penalty mic, but I think I had 6 deltas. So again, like, you're just not collecting points when you're shooting deltas, and so
Yeah. That was a pretty interesting one to end on, honestly.
it really was.
6 deltas
It
is
really
a lot
was.
of deltas
Yeah,
on one stage. 6 deltas on a stage. I just want to really let that sink in. On a 15 round stage, you shot 6 deltas. I mean, that's 40%. 40% of your shots went into a delta. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen that dog count from anyone who's a good shooter, and you're a great shooter.
In all honesty, like, even though my score didn't reflect it, that was probably the most impressive thing I did that day. With a
Because you just
single
went,
stack.
and you got it all there. It's just, they just weren't.
I
Yeah.
just needed to pay attention. I just needed to stay connected to the front sight more. I just lost connection with the front sight, like halfway through a string.
But it was too
I
late
lost
because you
connection.
fixed time, so you just continued pulling the trigger based on index, and that's how you got
Like,
deltas.
it wasn't obviously. It wasn't my intention to shoot to shoot that wild. It just kind of, after the first 3 shots. My first 3 shots were 2 alphas and a Charlie, I think, and it wasn't my intention to shoot that wild. It just kind of, that timer's going to go off. And so you just kind of get pressure to go faster and faster. And it just, it kind of ate me a little bit.
Yep.
So this is why, I don't tend to like fixed time. We've talked about this before in matches, in the sense that you can have multiple people win them. They cannot provide point separation. But in terms of the mental task of fixed time, I find it very, very interesting. Because when you do have that little mistake and you lose track of your sights, and you're like, well, it's more important for me to pull the trigger than to find my sights, because I'm going to run out of time, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
So it is fun. It's just not always great in a match. It sounds like this was well implemented.
This one would have, I think this one would have been pretty well received at a nationals. It challenged anybody. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it, and enjoyed the match as a whole. So Jeff, what are your take? I mean, we've talked about it on the road and stuff, but what are your takeaways from this match? You playing any IFSIC at all, or you just
No, honestly, I shot really well at this match. I'm pretty happy with how I shot. I don't really have any complaints.
What does the internal Jeff say?
Yeah,
the internal Jeff.
What does the red fox squirrel Jeff say?
Yes, fox squirrel Jeff.
I mean, with how Bob shot that match, I don't think there's any any version of me shooting that match today where I beat Bob at that match. Like, I don't think I could have beat Bob on a better day. Like, I shot...
This is not animal energy, sir. This is like perspective and maturity. We don't do that. What would the fox squirrel say? What does the fox squirrel say? There should be a song.
Bob got lucky. Son of a bitch got lucky.
I control the controllable. We shoot that match 100 times, I win 99. That's what the fox squirrel says.
Right.
That's right.
Right. That was his 1% time, yeah. But, you know, I think I could have shot better and got closer by just giving more patience to targets that I went to war on. Mainly steel. A couple of steals just really cost me at this match. But other than that, I was actually really happy with how I was able to control my shooting and my throttle and sort of keep my game intact till the end. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it can be done better. I can shoot better points. I can not go to war on steel. But as far as my match management went, I was pretty stinking happy with how I performed and how I was able to keep myself under control. So, you know, if anything, I'll just tell myself, okay, you're kind of depending on luck to hit these little poppers fast isn't really working out last couple matches. So probably the next one we're going to give a little more discipline to mini poppers, you know, outside 10 yards kind of deal. But yeah.
Man, that's still so much fun. Like, still really is so much fun because it doesn't hurt you until you send 3 or 4 at it. Mm-hmm. And then it really, really hurts. It really hurts. If you're, especially in your guys' division, if you're standing there flat-footed, sending extras and knowing you also just added a load somewhere that you weren't going to do. So it's both the primary loss and then the secondary loss. That's
yeah. So I had like maybe 2 pieces of steel that cost me, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 points, something like that. So I could have been closer, but there's not a version of me today that would have won that match, I don't think. So.
How about you, Jeremy? There's a version of Jeremy in there that would have won.
Oh, I don't walk away with that thought.
No, you told me. Hold on, I'll let you talk in a second. You told me on that last stage. You have
insider information.
On that last, I do not understand some of the comments Jeremy makes. On that last stage,
I don't have no idea where you go with this, so I'm interested.
That part-time stage, how many points was that stage total?
Total is 15 rounds, so that's 75 points.
Okay, so we finished shooting that, and Jeremy's like, "Oh yeah, there's a 65 there," and I was like, "That makes it makes no sense to me to think that way."
Oh, I shot a 50 with 6 deltas. It's not hard to turn that into a 65.
But I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to me to like go absolute balls to the wall, hanging shit on paper and picking up 6 deltas and then being like, "Oh yeah, that could have been a 65."
On some other day, and I'm going to take Jeremy's side on this one. On some other day, the sight comes back down to his vision on one of those transitions because it was 1 shot per, and he never loses it. And so everything else is the same. The only difference is he's dragging the sight to the middle of targets instead of dragging his wrists. Because once you've lost the sight and you're committed to pulling the trigger, you're aiming with your wrists. Right? And like you could set up that stage, run it 10 times, and maybe 3 or 4 times you could shoot it at the exact same pace and see his sight on every target. Because it wouldn't take any longer to see your sights. It's just having lost them, you don't get them back.
Yeah.
But like perceiving them in the middle of targets.
Yeah, I mean Jeff shot a 51 and didn't you shoot a miss? Or did you have hits on everything you shot at?
I don't know, probably.
He had 3 only mics, so he had a miss on something.
So I
didn't even shoot at everything, I don't think.
Right. No, you didn't. like I shot a miss and I double engaged a target. So I had more time in the stage to aim than I took.
And they didn't hit you with a procedural for extra hits on paper?
No, because I only hit it once.
Oh, you double engaged and missed on one of them.
It was over 15. It was the target at the back of the stage. I don't know, 15 yards. Okay. Something. Yeah, it was the furthest target.
So you shot it from two different spots, and one of the times you shot at it, you missed.
Correct. Yeah. I can very much see, getting to that 65 point. It's there.
And again, though, this is what's awful about fixed time is you could get to that 65 point, and you would make up 6 match points on Bob, who who chose not to shoot at specific targets.
Well, and that's right. I mean, Bob's
and that's what's terrible about fixed time.
Good example. Right. Well, I mean, like I could have, I think I could have, because I moved more aggressively than Bob did there. Like I could have engaged basically one more target and gotten one more alpha than Bob, and shot like the pace that he shot. Like I think that's very doable. Again, I'm not saying I can do that on demand. Obviously, I didn't do it on demand, but a 65 is there. Like you don't.
Right, but again, that would only change you
65.
That would just be a 6-point swing on that stage.
Right. But Jeff, you don't think a single stack shooter could shoot 65 on that?
I'm not saying I don't think it's possible. I just think it's really weird to walk up to a stage like that and shoot what we did, in the low 50s, and then be like, oh yeah, that should have been a 65. I think there's a 65 there. Nobody at the match saw a 65.
In single stack. There. Yeah, in single stack.
I don't think anybody shot a 65 at the match.
No, 2 people shot over that in limited optics.
Oh, okay.
Travis Tomasi shot 13 alphas, 2 deltas. And you know what? I'm willing to bet, you guys can ask him, Travis, he didn't see his dot on those deltas. I think he aimed with his hands.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Those are probably.
And Caleb Patterson shot a 66.
Yeah, so I didn't say that. I didn't mean to say that as in, I think I should have been shooting a 65. More that I think a 65 is there.
Like you put that stage in Western Single Stack Championship, and somebody walks away with a 65.
At least
maybe it's one of you two. Yeah,
right.
And maybe it's one of you two, and maybe it's Bob Crow or Nels or whoever, right? But right. Somebody does.
Yeah.
You let 50 good single stack shooters have a crack at it, and there's somebody in the 60s.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, all right, back to your match, Jeremy. Sorry, I derailed that.
Oh no, that's fine. This is the part that I hesitate to have publicly because it sounds like the woulda, coulda, shoulda crowd, but it is what it is. I was not sharp going into this match. I was not super trained up for myself. So I wasn't just feeling like, hey, I'm dialed.
Oh.
Yeah, drink some more, Jeff. So honestly, I was pretty happy with how I shot for the most part. We get to my stage 3 and 4, and it really shows up when you put our scores into the overalls, because really nobody shot our 4th stage. Jeff won it. Nobody shot that well, because I was basically the same time, and I had a standing load, like a bad slide lot standing load, and I was still basically the same time. So that tells me, okay, nobody shot that stage well. But in the overalls, you look at all my scores, and our 3rd and 4th stages, I'm at 59%. Every single other stage, I'm over 80% in the overalls against all the limited optics and open people. So those were 2 stages that were just significantly worse. And there's Bob beat me by 70 points, and I guess Jeff's gonna say that, well, you sound a whole lot like like you did whenever you said there's a 65 in the fixed time, but there's pretty easy 70, not easy, but I dropped 70 points on those 2 stages. Not because I couldn't perform the shooting task, just because for those 2 stages I shot poorly. So I can see a world where, I walk away winning that match. Now that sounds pretty rich from a guy who finished at 93% and in 4th place. So I fully get that. And IFSIC only has so much value. But what I do want to
mathematically, anyone over 90% could have won a match. Like mathematically, it depends who's there, but it means you had scores. When somebody says I could have won that match and they finished on 82%, they couldn't. There's just too many different things, right? Unless they zeroed up 32 round stage because they're kind of broke, right? Like that's different. Yeah. And even then, that's only 10% of the match, right? Like, I mean, it's not. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're on 93% of the match, yeah, you could have won it. Unlike Jeff, who's on 96.32%, just in no conceivable world to be at one.
Right. Correct.
Well, and you know why? It's because you have a bunch of mics you can point at, and you're like, well, I just don't shoot the mics. And this is the curse of the clean match. It lies to you because he's not thinking about the 4 shots of 2 pieces of steel that they each got 3 or 4 shots because it doesn't show up on the score. So it's like, well, what could I change to do better, right? Versus with a mic, it's pretty simple. It's like you have 2 mics on a stage. You're like, great, spend 0.05 of a second on 2 shots, and I won't have mics.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can trade 0.1 of a second to get rid of 2 mics.
Yeah, and so that 3rd stage. I somewhat know what caused it. Well, there were 2 factors in it. One, I spent too much time debating on a stage plan. I should have just picked a stage plan, and irregardless of whether it was the best plan, I should have picked one sooner, so that I just kind of got away from the thinking about the stage plan and just more into the stage. So
you were up pretty quick on that one, weren't you?
Quick-ish. I mean, no, because that was only our 3rd stage, and I was fairly late. So I wasn't like I was the 3rd shooter or something like that. So it was just there were several options that it was risky that you had to kind of break up some shots with 8 rounds, and you had to figure out how to do that. And I should have just picked a plan early on and just said I should have been able to recognize early enough that, hey, all these plans are basically the same, and so just pick one. And whether it's the best one or not, just pick it and go with it. And then that was my first mistake. My second was I came to the first position. I ran to the first position. It was 2 kind of open targets that were pretty close, and I shot those really just pretty spastically. Again, like this was not shooting as slow a split as possible, which is what it just kind of went over, and I just shot 4 shots, and close targets, and I'm giving up points on it. And then I need to load.
Is that one? It was one of your deltas on one of those close targets.
Yes,
you shot 4 deltas, 2 mics.
Yeah. That's where we're getting to. And so there's that. So that was just kind of a really spastic position. And then I really struggled getting my mag in going into the second position, to where I basically, it wasn't like a dropped mag, but it was I'm basically in position, still getting the load done, and it just pushed me over that edge into panic zone just enough that it was like it again, not conscious. This is what I've got to battle subconsciously, but it just pushed me into this panic zone. And so then I just started pressing to go faster. And then whenever I did that, that's when I just really started throwing all the rest, like 3 more deltas. One, I really basically had 3 misses. I had 1 delta that was an edge hit that was just you just barely saw it. It was kind of at an angle, so it got me the perf. I legit, it did break the perf, but it was very much an edge hit. So easily was almost 3 mics on that stage. And it was just that moment of not being ready that put me into this panic, go fast. And it's like, I never reeled it in for the rest of the stage. And it just, and it ended up with a really, really poor stage. Because again, Jeff won it, and Jeff didn't have you won that stage. I think
Yeah.
our
And
third
you
stage-
guys were 8 seconds off the pace in high cap,
right. Yeah.
which means
And-
it's not a good stage for you.
Yeah, I mean that was the most challenging one to break down with 8 rounds. Was for sure was that one. That was there was most debate, most discussion on how to break it down. Honestly, that's what made it interesting. It was just sad that I just didn't execute it well. So like and then the next stage, same thing. I didn't reel it back in on the next stage, and so yeah, it just cost me. What I will say I did good about, and I think because everybody commented on it, like I didn't get mad at all. Like after that dumpster fire stage, I mean, like I was disappointed internally, but like I didn't get mad at all. It's just like, okay, this is what it is. We're just gonna keep shooting. I've shot bad stages before. I'm gonna shoot bad stages again probably. So whatever. We'll just keep going. And I mean, like it kept me at least in a good mood and more likable on the squad for the for the stage. I'm not gonna say I was likable, but it was more likable than if I'd been all dumpy and stuff. That was good.
Yeah, I agree.
I had a good positive mental attitude.
Yeah, I agree. You were fairly pleasant to be around.
I appreciate it. That's a high compliment.
How did your guys' distillery tour pregame affect your match?
Oh, I mean, I didn't feel like it. I mean, Bob was the one. Okay, so we were supposed to pick Bob up at the airport, and I didn't realize that basically, like, I think halfway through Kentucky, it changes to Eastern Standard Time. And so I was planning on getting there at such and such time. Well, because I thought it was Central Time that it was on, we were an hour behind in when we were going to pick Bob up from the airport. So he gets there, and he texts me, hey, I'm here. I've got my bags. And Lexington's a tiny airport, so he got it really quickly. And so I'm like, dude, we're an hour and a half out. So he gets on his phone, Wild Turkey Distillery is 15 miles away. I'm going to take a taxi to Wild Turkey Distillery. And so he gets there like an hour before we do. And at the distillery there, if you buy a drink at their bar, they give you an engraved Wild Turkey Distillery rocks glass. And of course, Bob's flying, so I take all the stuff home, and I didn't really realize how many he had or whatever. I had one of those, and I had another one, in a Glencairn, and I get back and I clean them. And also, like, I have 7 of these, and only one was mine. So 6 of these were Bob's, and he won the match and shot one of the better matches he's shot. So I don't think it had a huge effect on us.
Well, you clearly didn't drink enough.
Yeah.
Apparently, I should have had more low and slows.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
I should
you
have.
can't let you guys escape without talking about the overall winner, Joey Sauerland, back to winning ways.
Yes, he did, and he said something about like he wants to get on the single stack, the single stack race next year. So Hit Factor Reid next year could be pretty bussin'. I'm gonna get a trophy made that's gonna be a traveling trophy. Bob may have it for a very short time because I don't know when I'll get it finished. But I'm gonna get a trophy made that's a traveling trophy, and it'll be Bob's for a year, and he'll have to send it back.
Yeah.
And I bet Brett wished he had stayed in production.
Oh no, Brett was supposed to shoot single stack. I was giving him a 45 to shoot, and he's like, "Nah."
If you're giving people 45s, I would have come to the match. I want to read Pistol Smithing 45. What the heck?
I was going to loan him.
Oh, never mind. Okay, well I have 45s.
Okay, so the last.
Bill Godbold also drove up there to shoot that match. He did, and deserves a shout out.
Absolutely. Yeah, he didn't shoot single stack, so he only halfway drove up, but yeah, he came to the match, so that's good.
Yeah, we didn't get to see any of those folks because we didn't go to the range on Saturday.
We were at the distillery. Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, the last thing we got to talk about. This has been I'm surprised we went this long on Kentucky, but it was a great match. I hope you guys hear like the excitement. It was a ton of fun. The Hit Factor single stack raid. We want more people and we want more people, but we want more of like the high end shooters as well. And I think it'll be pretty cool to come do it. But our fourth stage, we have an RO. I'll just say he's a little short peckerwood. And so we're doing the stage briefing, and he's already mad. He's already mad at other squads for not taping and resetting. And so he reads the stage brief, and we're going over that. And I had already, at some point early on, like before he says this, I had said something about, I had pointed to Bob, and I said, oh, yeah, but he doesn't have to tape because he's super squad guy. Like, he shoots on the super squad, so he doesn't worry about taping. Totally in jest, like, everybody's laughing. Well, during his stage briefing, he makes the declaration that if you are not the shooter, you must be resetting and taping, and I will call you out. If you're not the shooter, if you're not the next shooter, you have to be resetting. Which I'm just like, okay, dude, like, nobody's going to do that. Because literally the world over, that is not how any matches ever run. I mean, maybe a local, if you have like a 5-person squad, okay, right, you may have to do something. But the world over does not operate that way. So Bob he's the third shooter on this stage. And so he's the first person shoots, everybody's taping and resetting. And we're doing fine. Like, there's no problem with us taping and resetting. We're doing great at that as a squad. That was not an issue. And
we hadn't even had a chance to suck yet. We just started.
That was like one shooter in. Like, who do you even know?
Well, no, he was yelling at us before. Basically, he was yelling at us as a squad before anybody even shot. He's like mad that we're not resetting. It's like, I get if you end up like the squad's not doing anything, then you got to yell at people. Okay, I get that. But you got to at least let them prove that they're not going to tape. So anyway, the first person shoots. The next shooter is doing they're on the stage walking. Bob is standing a reasonable distance behind the start line, looking through his mags, making sure, his mags are all loaded, everything's in order, doing that sort of stuff. Well, the RO yells at Bob, "Hey, you need to go tape. You don't need to, you're not the shooter, go tape." And Bob's basically like, "No, I'm not going to do that." And Bob got mad. I mean, he got quite upset, and he starts yelling at the guy. He's like, are you telling me that whenever you're the on deck shooter, you're out there taping? And this guy's like, absolutely, every time. There's no match I ever go to that I don't. I'm taping every time unless I am the shooter. And Bob's like, I'd like to see that. So he's hot. He ends up still shooting. And it kind of that I remember, that's kind of the end of it for there. We end up the match, and we end up finish that stage. Everybody's going to shake the RO's hand, and Bob goes and shakes his hand. Again, smaller guy, and those who don't know Bob Crow, he's 6'7". He's a rather large guy and has a firm handshake. And so Bob is having a discussion. I thought he was just going to shake his hand and we're going to leave, and okay, we'll laugh about this. Well, Bob goes to shake his hand, and Bob tells him, "Hey, this is not right. This is not how this works, and you're wrong," which the guy was, and the guy's not backing down at all. And it ends up in a shouting match, and Bob tells him rather loudly to get his head out of his butt, and at that point, the RO 10-6s him. He kicked him out.
DQs him, yeah.
He said, "You're gone," DQ'd. And here's why this got contentious. Whenever they're having a discussion, Bob says, "You need to call the RM over here. We need to have the RM here for a discussion." And that RO said, "This is not an RM issue. I'm not calling the RM." That is when Bob started shouting and yelling. Like, that is when he truly got upset, is after he refused to call the RM over. But then whenever you DQ somebody and you 10-6 them, at that point you have to call the RM. And the RM came and he listened to both parties, and the RM's like, this is not worth being DQ'd over. This is not what this is really for. So like, you're reinserted in the match. Now I'm not trying to like, I really not trying to make this like blow up as a big story. But anyway.
So unofficially, Jeff Cawthon won the match. That's what I'm hearing.
Correct. Well,
and he was first GM, and he won. just put that out there.
Technically, Jeff DQ'd himself as well.
I DQ'd before Bob, so
he DQ'd before Bob. He realized he has a nervous tick, and that after load and make ready, sometimes he has the gun in his holster, and he clicks his thumb safety up and down, and doesn't know that he's clicking his thumb safety up and down.
Oh, dude, stop! No, Jeff, no.
It was caught
That's
in a way
that when you're standing there with the timer
him.
and you're like make ready, and they make ready, and they put the gun in the holster, and then you hear, oh no! Did you just do that?
It was not caught in a way that was where he was DQ'd.
So technically, Paul Clark Jr. is the winner.
Yeah. I think so.
Anyway, sorry. I derailed you. So the RM said this is not worth being DQ'd. You're reinstated in the match. Everybody stop being boneheads.
Yeah. Yep. And
this is also
point,
why, like pre-tip for ROs, this is why when you get into a conflict with a shooter, which should never ever happen, there's zero reason to be in a conflict with a shooter. The moment there's the slightest bit of friction, you escalate. Like the moment there is. So that it helps with match flow, it helps with everything. But it's like you say, "Oh, you guys need to pace," and this guy goes, "No, I'm up in 2." And I say, "No, you need to pace." He goes, "No, I'm up in 2." I'm like, "All right, cool." Let me call the RM. Boom, done. Moving on.
And so
now,
I want to clarify.
The RO
when
would
you
still
said
be
escalate,
wrong.
Yeah, when you said escalate, you meant call the escalate in.
I mean escalate up a chain of command. I don't mean get madder at them and try and prove to them that you're right. Right. So even if you're wrong, be wrong quickly. And so be wrong quickly, which means like bring in the next level. Like when you're ROing, you never ever need to argue with the shooter about anything. Not about a call, not about a ruling, not about a football. You call it as you see it, and the moment they disagree, you get a higher authority and you go back to doing your job. Your job is not to be the final word on anything.
Yeah.
Your job is to be the first word. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
That's a different
and I honestly, like, I bring this up as a, like, hey, ROs, like, the shooter, the on-deck shooter, and the in-the-hole shooter do not tape and reset. Like, this is a sport. The RO is basically, he's approaching this as in the sport exists so that people can volunteer to work in the sport. And so if that's the case, well then, yeah, who cares about your competitive performance? We only care about how well you can reset the stage.
Pasting is a horrible tradition that's necessary because we don't have low-paid minions to restore our stages for us. Right? Like, that's the only reason pasting exists. It's not a moral virtue. It's not valuable. It's not part of the experience. All it does is add performance drag to everyone at every skill level, like having to go back and forth, create friction, create conflict. Like it's just a necessary component. It's not. Yeah. Same thing with anytime somebody yells at a group of people too, like, why is nobody down here pasting? And it's like a standard stage with 3 targets. It's like because we have one guy with a paster pen, right? Like, everybody else sit in the shade. Like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Like the sport doesn't exist for volunteering.
Yeah. No. And I think this RO views it that way. But also another way that I win because Bob was DQ'd, Jeff should have been DQ'd, and Paul Clark Jr. also, he taped a target early and was threatened with a DQ, so I'm saying he should have been DQ'd. So basically, I won the match. So I'll probably just keep the trophy.
Unofficially. Yeah. Well, but actually, Jeremy, just to be clear, unofficially, JJ won this match. If we go down this logic chain far enough, then in fact JJ won this match. Like, realistic.
And only because there is an election coming up, in case people are wondering about that, The RO in question was none other. I didn't really know this until after the match was over. Was one Dan Click, which I didn't actually recognize the name until I realized that Dan Click is the current interim Area 5 director. So if that factors in at all in how you vote for in the Area 5 election, that is maybe kind of shows you a little bit of his viewpoint of the sport. He wants to work hard for the sport, but his viewpoint is not really skewed towards, I want to work hard so that people can compete and try to win matches.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the takeaway here. Like, from what I understand, Dan is a pretty hard worker and does a lot for the sport. But, if anything, the takeaway is you just kind of get a glimpse of his perception on the sport and what it is and what we're here for. So
yeah,
just kind of take that into account. If you're someone that sees this as a competitive outlet and that's why you're here, that I don't feel like that really aligns with why he's here.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, Kentucky was great. If you're there, Monday is not a good day for distilleries. Most of the distilleries are closed on Monday. So that is something to learn for in the future. Most distilleries are basically open Wednesday through Sunday. And so we had to kind of scramble on Monday to find a distillery. We still did.
Well, it won't help your desire to have good competitors there. But next year, since we'll have a single nationals, we should pick an early season single stack rate, like this match, like a May-June match, and it shouldn't really interfere with anybody's plans.
Correct. Honestly, like this match worked perfectly for that, and I think other than CO Nats being at a really stupid time in the year, the timing of this match actually works really, really well for.
I bet if the timing of this was different, because he's right there, I bet you could have gotten John Vlieger to put on a single stack rate.
Oh yeah, I think Nils would have come.
Yeah, again, like you could do this much more effectively with a rational schedule for nationals.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I think you get a couple more top name guys, and they start showing up, and people want to compete against them, and
like A1 Joey Sauerland.
A1 Joey Sauerland, that's right. That's correct. So, I look forward to next year's. I think it's going to be great. I hope Leif puts on the Bluegrass match again, and I suspect it'll probably be a level 2 by next year is my guess. But we'll see. It was a great match, a lot of fun. If y'all weren't there, you missed out, and you should put that match on your schedule for next year.
And just go ahead and give our shout outs again, since
hey, what wonderful retailer is based there in Kentucky?
A wonderful retailer, none other than Shooters Connection, the fastest shipping in our sport. They have everything you could possibly ever need and want. And as was mentioned, John Vlieger, he actually works for Shooters Connection. So he's not only fast at shooting, he's helping them be fast at shipping as well. And
their pastries stick better than most of the other pastries. I don't know why, but the ones that they print Shooters Connection on, they are better pastries than some of the other alternatives that are closer to cardboard color.
I use their pastries in practice, and man, I get some mileage out of targets with their pasters. Normally once you've covered the target, like an area in pasters, like it's done. You can have like 3 or 4 layers deep of pasters, and it'll still go. It'll still work.
And I shoot truncated cone bullets and semi-wand cutters, and those are hard on targets and pasters. So Shooters Connection pasters. Add them to your order.
That's right.
They were also a sponsor of the match. So.
They were. That is correct.
As they sponsor quite a few matches. All right, so shout-outs. We don't have new shout-outs, but we're going to double these up. So shout-out from our Discordian cowboy friend. This one's just such a heartfelt shout out, so we're just gonna read it again. Shout out to Jay Headland Shooting for all the positive influence and impact you've had on everyone, the talent you bring, inspiration you provide, and the general good time you bring to each match will be greatly missed, and I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say we can't wait to have you back home. And then the next shout out from Jay Headland is a shout out to my KC area peeps. I'll be heading your way for the year next week.
So is that Idaho to Missouri?
Yep. That's a trek. That's a long ways.
There you go.
That's a trade too. Like that's a whole bunch of like mountains and woods and freedom for a whole bunch of Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri.
Another thing, I do have a class coming up in November. It's a short plug for myself. I have a Knights 11 build class coming up in November. As of right now, I think I have 1 or 2 spots available. So we had a
quick plug for myself. I'm seeking
time.
sponsorship for Jeremy Reid's pistol smithing class. So if you're interested in sponsoring me for a class, I hear he has 1 slot in November. Just gonna float that one out there.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Great idea.
Yeah.
So
I mean, while we're at it, me too.
Jeff's not allowed in the shop for that class. He needs one-on-one attention, and I can't pay attention to 5 other guns.
I do need.
I want to see his hands covered with Daikin.
Well, he can go visit Mike Dixon, and I'm sure they could get them all covered up.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Maybe I'll just take a class from Mike.
Yeah, I think you should.
Like
All
one
right,
of those
boys, that was a
Rembrandt
good
things
one.
where it's really hard to tell which one's the master and which one's the apprentice.
That's right. That's right. Well, that was a good one. It's time to break it like a biscuit. Call it quits.
Yeah.